Welcome to week 5 of grade 2 e-learning. This week's learning will focus on partitioning rectangles into rows and columns of equal sized squares. This week's learning is broken into 3 steps. Make sure your child feels comfortable with the learning in step 1 before moving on to step 2, and comfortable with step 2 before progressing to step 3. In step 1, students will learn about rows and columns in the real world. In looking at this Hershey bar, your child should see 3 horizontal rows and 4 vertical columns. In the game for step 1, players will color a row or column on each turn. You are not allowed to cross over a row or column that has already been shaded. The player with the most colored squares at the end of the game wins. In step 2, students will partition rectangles into equal rows and columns. The squares within the rectangle should all be the same size. In the example shown, the rectangle can be partitioned into 6 rows and 6 columns, 3 rows and 3 columns, or 2 rows and 2 columns. In the final step, students will use repeated addition to solve for the total number of squares in a partitioned rectangle. In the example shown, students can add the number of squares in each row, 4 plus 4 plus 4, or the number of squares in each column, 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3, to find the total number of squares, 12, in the rectangle. The game for this step is called rolling for rows and columns. Each player will need to use a different color. On a player's turn, they roll 2 dice, or 1 die 2 different times, and record the rolls. They find the rectangle described and color it. Then the player records the repeated addition sentence to find the total number of squares. If a player rolls a rectangle that has already been colored, they lose their turn. The winner is the player with the most colored rectangles at the end of play. To practice using the new learning in real life, bake a cake or brownies. Let your child help cut the cake or brownies into equal rows and columns to make squares. Your child should then use repeated addition to find the total number of cake or brownie pieces. Also included in this week's packet is a fluency game. This week, students will be working with the idea of equality. They should find expressions that are equal and write an equation from the 2 expressions. For example, if a child chooses G, they may find that 9 plus 5 is equal to their expression 8 plus 6. On a paper, they should write 9 plus 5 is equal to 8 plus 6, and write their letter G in the box beside 9 plus 5. Remember to visit SmathSmarts.com for helpful information and videos. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter for the latest updates to this website. Have a great week of e-learning.